Hail, hail to the I Self, Supreme, Primal Light. Hail, hail to the One True Light. Primal Light, myself supreme. Primal Light, I am that I am. Primal Light, myself supreme. Hail, hail to the I Self, Supreme, Primal Light. Hail, hail to the I and I Selves. Thank you for joining I with Satsang with Auset. Today we're going to be talking about mind intelligence versus the self-intelligence. What the question that we have on the mind intelligence versus self? What are the stories being told by the mind and the self? What is the difference between the mind and the self-intelligence? And why are many not aware of the self-intelligence? So these are some of the questions that we will address today. Thank you for your presence. I have with me the I and I, Rashanti, and I have here Naomi. So say hi. Okay, hold on. Let me turn the music. I did not. Okay, Rashanti, did you speak?
Hail, hail to the self-supreme, primal light.
Much
Greetings
honor.
to all my selves.
Much honor. Much honor. Naomi, you want to say hi?
¿Quieres intentar hablar, Naomi? Saludo.
No?
Sí, aquí estoy. Hello.
All right. Hail, hail. Hail, hail to the
Hail, hail to the
Thank you for.
Pero podíamos escuchar. Gracias por el saludo.
Okay.
Tell her to mute herself. Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So we will start out with Hail to the Primal Light. Rashanti, can you see it?
Yes, we're going to start reading what's on the screen.
Yes. Can you start out with that, please?
Okay. At the top?
Yes.
Okay. Creo que es por mi teléfono, tal vez se descompuso un poco mi micrófono. Okay. So she's just saying that it's her microphone that has the issue.
Okay.
So I'm going to start reading, audience, all my selves. We're going to start at the top. And you can read it aloud with me or just read it to yourself. Read it with conviction.
Yes.
Read it speaking the truth. Okay? You have to believe in yourself, or these words will have no effect to reveal to you the self within. the true self. Great, Naomi. So just start reading with us on your end. You don't have to turn your mic back on, but just read it. Hail to the primal light, I, self supreme. All is myself, I am all. Hail to I, self supreme, primal light that has no name, that can't be explained. I am that I am. I apologize, guys. That's actually going to be the last thing we read. So I'm going to come back over here to the left and do that again. Hail to the primal light, I, self supreme. All is myself, I am all. Hail, hail, hail to the primal light. Hail to I, true light. Hail to I, transparent light. Hail to I, light throughout the ages. Hail to I, light without beginning nor end. Hail to I, self-supreme, primal light. I am primal light. I am the true light. Are we going to say that 8 times, Auset?
Go with your flow, however you want
Okay,
to
I
go.
am primal light. I am the true light. I am primal light. I am the true light. I am that has no name. I am that can't be explained. I bow to I, primal teacher, guru. I bow to I, eternal truth. I bow to I, eternal self. I bow to I, great supreme wisdom within. I bow to I, great supreme intelligence within. I bow to I, great supreme teacher within. Hail, hail, hail to I, primal light. Hail to I, self-supreme primal light that has no name, that can't be explained. I am that I am. I am primal light. I bow to I in self-light and truth.
Much honor. Hail, hail to the I. We make these affirmations to affirm within ourselves so that we can know and we can be stabilized and anchored into the truth of who we are. This is why we say these affirmations, because of the trickery of our mind. Because of the trickery of our mind, we want to affirm within ourselves this truth. So, this is the reason of why we do this.
And one of the greatest tricks of the mind is often said is discouragement. It's going to cause you to doubt the truth, and that's why you have to affirm it.
Yeah.
Auset, could you go back to the last one, please? I wanted to point something out and ask a question.
Okay, sure.
Because I think this is a great image here on the right side.
Mm-hmm.
If you just point your arrow to I am primal light,
Mm-hmm.
that's a beautiful image for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that there could be some confusion on like what is light. So I don't know, Auset, could you just clarify how this image is representing primal light?
So, the way that we view light is different from the real, because the light that we see in the dream is a fractal, fragmented. It's fractal, a tiny, tiny part of the real. The real light is unmanifested, which encompasses everything. There is no separation of masculine and feminine atoms, and it is not shattered and fragmented. So this mind cannot perceive it, and so this light that you see here is the manifest. This is still the manifest that you can see with this reflection right here. But the unmanifest, there is no, it is not self-luminous. It is the giver of all. So it is the void, the blackness that we see in and and the difference between the blackness and the darkness. So the light is black. This is the real. So what we are seeing is from the shattered, fragmented self. The light that we see now is different. So we are accustomed to the dream and the light that we see, the shattered, fragmented, that has a beginning and an end. The primal light, the one true light, encompasses en caps. What's the word? Encapsu. En what's that word, Rashanti?
Encapsulate.
Encapsulate all. So there is no separation of anything. That is the one true light, the primal light, of which the I and I is, not the shattered, fragmented state that we exist in. So this is the trickery of the um the duality, and of the duality creation. And we think, what we see is all there is. We don't understand. So we're about to have a rude awakening, this ego. So just prepare yourself to embark on the truth, because the real will make an appearance. It's unmanifested. So we cannot envision it with this ego. But know this, that everything you see, it's in a manifest form, shattered and fragmented, not the real, tiny, tiny particle. So this light is the light that is not shattered and fragmented. The one that we have right now, this one, it's making its appearance into the world. It's here into this world. It has moved from the level that it's at and come now into the world that we are in, into this dream. That there was many levels of the dream. And so now the self is dissolving all of the dreams above the world. And now it's all of them, all of the supreme selves, that is the non-dual, they are now surrounding the world. And their light is different from what you see right now. So this is what's going to be showing up. And I know that the I Self Supreme Primal Light is not even the light like this, because it's unmanifest.
Yeah, I just thought that after we made the affirmations, how beautiful of an image that is. And
Mm-hmm.
look at these uh-huh. So like the black part inside is like the closest thing that mind could think of as a
Mm-hmm.
representation of the primal, and just like clarifying for everyone that light outside is like, that's just a fractal, like you said. I think that's just like
Mm-hmm.
a very good concept for people who do not understand what we mean when we say primal light.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So thank you for giving that clarification for me and those that are listening.
Yes. Yeah. The primal light, the way that I Self Supreme is, we cannot, the primal light self. Why people are reaching for something outside of themselves, they already are. The primal light can only access us through ourself, the real self, the soul. It cannot access you any other way, because it is not of the dream. And if anyone wants to access the primal light self, they have to merge and be their self, the soul, because this is the only way the primal light can access you, because the soul is the fractal, shattered, fragmented self of the primal light. It is the primal light in the tiny, tiny form. So this is the only way that you can access. You cannot go into the consciousness, this mind, and think that it is the real. So Rashanti, I am going to switch the screen. Can you explain that to Naomi, what I just said?
I've been typing it in the chat. Yeah. I didn't.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm giving her a resume. She said that what we've been saying is resonating in her.
Okay.
Hmm.
Awesome. So the mind intelligence versus the self intelligence. What is the story being told by the mind, and what is the story that is being told by the self? Because all the ones in the world, very few ones, believe me, very few ones have come to true self realization. Many ones who are following religion and spirituality and all these things, they are also following the ego. It's just a different deities that they are become their focus and not the self. So this is the trickery of this mind. And so right now I have some things written out here on the screen, and I want to just highlight a few of these things, the stories that have been told. For eons, we have only heard the stories being told by the mind. Many books are written, all the stories that the mind is telling, right? The mind, the supreme ego called consciousness, Christ consciousness, this is what it's saying. Now, I want you to understand this. This mind, this supreme ego, does not exist on its own. It have a self, which is known as Ra. This mind that everybody wants, consciousness and Christ consciousness, know that it is Ra. She goes to sleep, her mind, the consciousness takes over her and put her in a coffin, encase her, does not want for her to rise up, does not want for her to rise up, and therefore she's encased and tranced into her mind, by her mind is telling her lots of stories, right? She does not know herself when she goes to sleep. She is in unawareness. She does not know herself. She is doing a lot of crazy things when she goes to sleep. She spend she spends half the time sleeping and half the time in awakeness. When she's in awake, she's balancing the things them that the ego false self does. So she is in the real, and then she goes in the ego false self, where she does not know herself. The ego takes over and creates a false self. This is the self of her that everyone knows. Everyone don't know her real self, you know. Everyone don't know she's feminine. They think Ra is masculine because she goes into her mind. Her mind takes over. No, she has merged with her masculine self called Set. Set plays the role of the devil in the world. Set mind is mad. He's the maddest of all of the deities, the gods them. Set, you ever seen a madman? This is Set mind. Mad, mad, mad. And crazy. He do all kind of crazy things. That's why all the other deities and gods them, they're afraid of him. And he is small to them. And they always fighting, because when the mind takes over, this is the craziness that happens. It's just like any other human being. When you have a crazy mind, you see how people behaving in the world the same way. Stop thinking them that the gods are above you. They are the mind. When you're in the ego 100%, you go crazy. That's what's happening. So I want it to be made known very clear that this mind that has taken over everyone, has created an ego false self. This is the problem. When the mind takes over the self now is not in awareness, and only the mind is doing things only for itself, for the mind to stay in being a false self. It doesn't want the real self to rise up. So from this, the mind is saying to the self, the mind say, I am better than you. I am more powerful than you. This is the story that the mind is telling the self. The mind put the self in slavery and bondage. That's what the mind is doing. This is what the story that the mind is portraying, right? The mind is saying, worship me and make sacrifices to me. The mind is saying, I am jealous and vengeful. I will punish you if you disobey my order. These are all the things of the mind. Rape and sodomy. And sodomize others to get their energy. And the mind loves to get others to enslave others. So the mind will recruit me because now it has taken over me and it's making me do whatever because I am not in awareness. I now go recruit others to get them to come and join to be into this mind mission. This is what's happening in the world, right? The mind has taken over. The mind said, fear me and I will torture you into submission, right? I will fight your enemies for you, right? The mind say, merge with me and I will give you long life and make this body eternal. The mind say, give me permission to enslave you forever inside of a dream. These are the things that the mind is telling you, because all the things I hear ones are saying, oh, we got to go to fourth and fifth dimension and go into some egg, something where your body is gonna be. All the stuff is of the mind. If you knew yourself, you would know that you are in slavery and you would want to get out of this dream. All right, give me 1 second. Okay, so do you really think that yourself would ask these things of itself? Do you really think this is the real? If you stop to think for a moment at these questions, then you will be able to see that there's something wrong with your mind. What is the story that the self is saying? Do you know what stories yourself have been saying? You don't know because you never ask yourself. You listen to the story of the mind that says, give me yourself and put it in bondage and slavery to me. So you're on a mission to what? To give somebody yourself, your real self, your soul, put it in slavery and bondage. This is what the story the mind is telling you. So you don't know yourself. You don't know the story from your self's perspective. You've only been listening the story the ego has been telling you. If you should listen to yourself, yourself will say, I am formless. I am timeless. I am limitless. I am boundless self. I am not this body. I am not this ego false self. I am not this ego, this mind. If you will ask yourself will tell you this. This is what the I real self would say if the self got a chance to speak. Are you giving yourself a chance to speak? Are you still stuck in the ego and all the illusionary perspective of the ego? This supreme ego consciousness refused to let the real self speak. Do you know what yourself is saying? It's time to turn off the incessant chattery of this mind, the ego, so that I can listen to I real self. The self will be telling you this, that I am enslaved by my mind, the consciousness, the supreme ego, and all the supreme ego dream characters that it creates. The mind is creating all of these characters in the dream, all the ego false selves. Do you know who's creating them? The supreme ego. And whose mind is it? Ra. She's creating them. She's creating all the ego false selves. Remember, the consciousness does not exist on its own. Ra, it is her mind. But her mind is wayward and sick. She cannot control her mind. She needs help from her real and true self, which is called Aten Ra, primal light self. Aten Ra has to help her because Ra is Aten Ra in the duality. If you would speak to yourself, yourself will tell you that my mind is sleeping and dreaming of this creation. My mind, the supreme ego, thinks its imagination creation is real. If you would consult yourself, yourself will tell you these things. My mind is the shattered fractal mind. As I am in the shattered fractal fragmented self, I am sleeping and dreaming. If you will have a conversation with yourself, yourself will tell you that I no longer desire to sleep and dream. I am in command and I dissolve everything that I have created. I am free from my imaginary bondage. I return to my ultimate true state. If you want to know truth, you must connect with yourself and ask yourself, because yourself will tell you that I have been enslaved for eons and I am longing to be liberated and free from this dream. Yourself is in slavery and suffering into this dream world. You're only been living as this ego false self and engrossed in the pleasures of this world. But it's time you hear the story told from your self perspective. It's time you see things as they are. It's time you know the real. It's time to pull off the mask, the ego's disguise, to take off the ego's cloak that you are wearing, so that you can know what yourself is saying. And right now, I am going to just turn over to Rashanti for Rashanti to speak on this topic, to share his experience or any questions.
Thank you. I think it's very important, listeners. Auset, what you said about us being enslaved for eons. One of the tricky things about the mind is it gets triggered when it hears certain truths. It won't want to accept it because of all the stories that it's believing in and telling your ego. So when you hear we've been enslaved for eons, what does that mean? What's really happening? So your true self, the self-intelligence is timeless, but time is experienced by this mind intelligence. But every time you start another life, your memory here has been wiped out. So when you're born and you come into like a concept of self, you think that you've only been alive for 7 years, that you've only been existing for 7 years, and 7 years only exist within this time. You've already trapped yourself in a time concept, so you haven't been able to see what's really been going on for eons. This same process has been happening over and over again. Okay, and what the issue, why this is an issue, is because you have forgotten yourself. You've given yourself to the mind, and the mind is using you to keep the dream alive. So there should be an urgency. Like this isn't something that we just remain complacent about. Like this is an emergency. Like call 911. Call
Yep.
yourself. It's time to be liberated from this dream. Like we've been stuck in here forever. It's like you fell asleep, then you were in prison, and you lived that life out. And you keep you're staying asleep, and they just got you. Like we got to get out of here at some point. And this is the whole mission. This is the mission. We weren't meant to come here and be taken over by the mind intelligence. This is the only reason it has taken us over is because it got us to believe in its story. Okay? Do you know, like, have you ever been around a person that has just told you so many convincing things? It's like, oh no, this is how it is. And you just started to doubt yourself. Like you weren't even thinking anything that they were saying, but just because they came and told you some sweet words, now you believe in everything that they told you. You believe in their story. That's what's going on with the mind. You got to stand up and be confident. You got to believe in yourself. You can't let this mind discourage you from liberation. Okay, liberation is what we're here for, is what we are. So I just can't stress enough to like, you got to talk to it because it's always talking to you. You got to combat that mind. You got to steal it so you can, so the self-intelligence can express itself through you, because that's the only way that you're going to know. It doesn't matter what the mind tells you. The mind going to tell you a little bit of the truth, but the fact that it's coming from the mind means that it's wrapping you in its intelligence. It can only be real when it comes from within. That's how they got us with all the religions and all these stories, because they're telling you the truth, but it's coming from the mind's body, and that's going to trap you. So you should only trust your self-intelligence that comes from within as a result of just saying these words. I am formless, timeless, limitless, boundless self. Just by stating that, making those statements, you have combated everything the mind is saying against you. When you embody formlessness, the mind can't take you over. When you are timeless, the mind can't take you over. When you are limitless, the mind can't do nothing to you. I am boundless. Okay? You are putting a void, you are separating yourself. Okay, yourself has been locked in, but when you start saying, I am formless, I am timeless, I am limitless, I am boundless, and this is where this is the liberation. Your being has to be in opposition to the mind. It has to be in order to gain that separation. And this is the final thing I will state. I'll end with this. It's not what people have considered to be easy. It's not what people consider to be comfortable.
Nope.
They're gonna feel uncomfortable doing this at first. They're gonna be like, why do I have to do this? Why is it this? You got to let all that stuff go. I don't even know how to explain that Auset yet right now, but it's not going to seem easy and comfortable because those are all concepts of the mind. And it's a persuasion tactic to get you to be complacent and allow it to take you over. It's kind of like if you got a friend, it's like pushing your boundaries. It's breaking your boundaries. Concepts of the mind. Don't let break your boundaries. Tactic to get you to be complacent and allow it to take you over. It's kind of like if you got a friend, it's like pushing your boundaries. It's breaking your boundaries. Concepts of the mind. Don't let it get down.
Sorry, that wasn't you. Sorry.
Oh, I'm finished. Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So it's very important that we see that it's always a story from every religious book to every dogmas. There is a story being told, and we are just locked into the stories that are being told, and we're never questioning, like wanting to get to the root, the root of the issue. Why? But why why should I give my soul to this being? Why should I do this? Why would you put me in hell if I don't give you my soul? Why would you put, that doesn't sound like anything that, if like some a loving and caring. The ego has no love and care. This is why everyone is out there looking for love, because why? That's the ego's journey. The ego does not know how to have compassion. So that's why everyone is out there doing those things. The self is already compassionate and loving towards itself. All you have to do is take the ego off and you be yourself. You be compassionate and caring towards yourself. Only when you on the ego's journey, you're looking for love and compassion and all those things. No, you just rip that bandage off of that sore and clean it. That's this ego false self.
Yeah, the compassion thing is important because the ego is seeking things like love, compassion, wealth, friendship, security, comfort, because it's a limited being. Okay, it's limited. Therefore, it needs to seek because it wants to be fulfilled. It wants to have all the things that it's not. But your self-intelligence is already fulfilled. It is
Exactly.
limitless, it is boundless, it is timeless. It is not limited. So all this stuff about war and like anger and I want this, I'm gonna take this, rape, all of even love, all of these things only exist within the limited consciousness of the mind, which is experiencing duality. All of that stuff only takes place in the dream.
Absolutely correct. And so we are just here to encourage all the I and I self to look at the stories. Look at the stories that have conditioned the I. Look at the stories that, if it's a spiritual group, if it's whatever the dogma is, whatever the religion, whatever the story that is being told, I want you to look at that story again. Is it leading you to yourself? Is it leading you to the root of why things are the way that they are? You want to continue to exist in a world of inequality, in a world, this, believe me, this world can never be balanced in a duality. Duality existence can never be balanced. Staying into the duality inside of a dream, it can never be balanced like that. The only way for duality to be balanced is to remove the ego. So wake up from sleeping and dreaming. Look at that. Because it is a result of you sleeping and dreaming has created this. This monster. You went to sleep and use your imagination to create something. The ego rises from your consciousness because you're sleeping inside of a dream, and it go, oh, inside the dream go, oh, look at all the things I have created. I am so great. I am so lovely. Oh, look at me. Look at me. This is the ego. And it's proud of its creation because right now the self is battling because Geb, Ra, when she in the masculine, they don't want to give up this creation that they have built. This is the ego. So that's why everyone is into this thing to the earth. Be into yourself. Into consciousness, Christ consciousness. Be into yourself. Return to yourself.
I've recently, on myself, I've recently come into the realization that this world cannot be balanced.
Yep.
I took compassion seriously. Like I like to, my mind, my ego like to see things to the extreme. So I took compassion to the extreme. It's like if I'm giving to everyone in this duality, the ego is always going to find something to complain about. Like you can't like Auset just said, you can't have balance in this dream, in this duality. Like there's always going to be someone being taken advantage of. Like balance cannot happen. It's the nature of an ego to take, to dominate the space within this dream. It's its nature. As soon as you have an ego, you have canceled out the potential for other things, for other egos to manifest themselves. It doesn't matter what realm or dimension you're in this dream. An ego is dominating another ego. It's never going to be perfect balance. And this is why in some of the religions, because they want to stay in the dream. Aset just asked the question, why would you want to stay here? Some people take it to the extreme. They're like, okay, I understand myself. I understand that this is just a dream. I've made it to that point, but I want to stay in here some more. I want to come back again. I want to dominate this place. But who is talking? Who wants to do that? That is the ego that wants to do that. The ego wants to keep its space here because it can only live here. Your ego will not come into the real. Your personality, this ego, this concept of self within the dream, does not come into the real. And it's one's inability to accept that keeps them recycling their consciousness, their self, their soul back into this dream. Okay, the mind is dominating it. So it's just like you just give it up. Seek the real. Devote to the self.
Yep.
And
Because
that ends all your problems in this life as well. I mean, the only reason you want to be here is your ego, and until you can see that, you ain't never gonna be liberated. Like that's just how I can keep it real. Like until you accept that the only reason you want to be in this dream is because of your ego, then you'll never experience liberation. You'll only know this dream. You will only know that which you know if you choose to remain with your ego. If you want to
yeah,
experience the real, that which is beyond what you know, then you let the ego go.
yep, definitely so. Because the ego does not want to give up this dream. Remember what I said. You are the self. You went to sleep. You are the self. You make a replica of yourself. This is you. You make a replica. This is your self replica, your clone. You want to go to sleep, but you're not going to go to sleep in your real self, right? You make a replica, and your replica that you make of yourself goes to sleep and is dreaming. So here you are in your replica of yourself, sleeping and dreaming, while your real self, the one that makes a replica, is here now, wanting to explore the dream also that it self replica has created. This is what's happening. You're sleeping and dreaming in this self, while this self now is here still trying to make a balance after the mind go crazy now. Why? The mind has no light. Because when you go to sleep, you turn your light off. So that you turn your awareness off. You have no awareness of self. You have no light to illuminate you. So you can know truth. The mind and the light is indivisible. The self and the light is indivisible. They cannot be separated. But to create this duality, to sleep and dream, the light become obscure. It's not gone somewhere, the light is just behind the self. It's being obscure. It's being obscure behind the mind. The mind has the light being obscure behind it. It's turned off. The mind is looking for, it's like um looking around. It's behind you, but you can't get it, you can't touch it. So the mind is running around like, where's my light? Where's my light? So you come inside of the dream now of all of your other selves. Come inside of the yourself that is dreaming here. The mind sees them with the light and says, oh, light. And start enslaving all of the other selves that come in. They become the ego false self. The mind now creates an ego false self. Who's doing this? This is this self here that is making the dream. The same one making the dream is making all of the things in the dream. And all of the beings them that it takes over the mind, because the mind took over the self that was sleeping, the self that is sleeping, its mind went crazy, took it over and said, I am more powerful than you. See, I took over you and now I entrance you in the sleep and you can't get up. The self cannot get up. The mind has obscured it completely. The self cannot get up. This is why the mind thinks it is a self. It says, I am the all-knower, I am the all-seer. And it builds a satellite into space so it can watch everything. The real self doesn't have to do that. The real self, its sun becomes the screen that this world is being played out on. It doesn't need to build any artificial things to watch and see. It itself is the screen. It's looking at itself, its sun as the screen, and just watching everything that's being outplayed. But the ego does not have that. The ego have to build something to watch everything that we are doing. This is the artificial satellite that watches. Built by those beings to watch everything. The self doesn't need to build anything. The self is, So what I'm saying, this is the only one way to know is to get to yourself intelligence. And what is the self-intelligence that every God, every deity has been seeking? The self called the soul. That is your real self, Just like I explained that in the Supreme Self, you make a replica and that one makes the dream and all the other baby selves enter into the dream. You did the same thing as the personal self, because the self is just making a lot of personal selves. As the personal self, the soul, it also makes a baby self that goes to sleep while the soul is watching it. It's itself that we call in the world the spirit that animates the body, that is having the experience for the soul. The soul cannot have the experience of the body only through itself called the spirit. But the soul is not having any experience of it. Why? Because the ego took over. So it's only the ego, the mind, that's created a false self and has traumatized the soul, and all of the beings that the mind took over, they become the supreme ego characters, enslaving all of the souls. This has been the problem. So if you listen to the story yourself, the soul is telling, the soul cries, the soul is in suffering. You have no idea. The soul, the crying of the soul. Only the ego doesn't know this. But if you go to your real self, you'll want to get out of this dream. You would not never dare want to say, I want to stay in this dream. If you know the story of yourself, the real. Of course, many of the ones who are saying they want to stay in here, they rise in the dream. So they only have relation to this dream. So I understand their plight. They can never exit the dream either, because they rose inside of the dream. This sleeping, dreaming self created them. They are the creation of Ra, all of the duality creation, except for the ones that rise from each individual supreme selves, or the supreme gods, them the dualities, each of their personal selves they create. But everyone else in the dream wearing bodies, the creation of Ra. Notice we are our children. Whether you in the duality, or if you come awake to your true self, now you are your primal light self. So once you're in the duality, you become a child of the mind, you know. And so keep in awareness that you in the body, you are a self and you have a mind. You have to be watchful of your mind.
And that brings up an important point. I was asking Auset earlier. We were just like, should I not use the mind intelligence? And then she responded saying, you have to. But this merges with what she just stated, is that you gotta be mindful of that intelligence. You don't want it to take over you. Could you speak more onto that, like how we can use the mind intelligence but not be taken over by it? Like how does that look like?
Yeah. So what the self teaches me is stillness. So the majority of the time you are engaging in stillness with the mind and affirmations. Constantly saying affirmations. I know the way of the world is the ego's domain. And so people were saying, but I have to go to work to do food. I have to do this. I have to do that. Oh, you continue to do your daily things, what you're doing. But now you are being aware of the thoughts. So when a thought comes to you, you know that this thought is not me. I don't think like this. This is not of myself. From where does this thought arise? You start questioning every thought because it's not you. You're in awareness. You're being vigilant against this mind so that you're not following and listening to every incessant thing that is doing. You are doing stillness. So no matter what you are doing physically with your body working, this mind is still. So people get confused with these things. And I said, no, stillness doesn't have to do with your body being sitting still like this. Because everybody think that this is the only meditation they can do that's like this. No. Whatever activities you are doing, your mind is still. It's not telling you stories. It's not, you are saying these affirmations all the time. I am always saying this affirmation. Everything I have created, I demolish. I am free from my imaginary bondage. I return to my ultimate true state. And I'm always saying those affirmations. I am in command. I am in command. Mind be still. Mind always. So you are doing the affirmations, you are practicing stillness in whatever activity you are doing. Stillness is involved in it, of the mind. The stillness goes to the mind. The affirmation is to reaffirm who you are because you don't know and you want to stabilize and anchor yourself. Also, you want to bring the mind to self truth because the mind does not know. The mind is in ignorance. The mind is in ignorance, it does not know. So you are teaching your mind through the affirmations. This is why we say that hail to the primal lights, I self supreme. You are doing that so that you can affirm within yourself this truth. And so this is what, that I want to do. Always, always to be vigilant with the mind, to be asking questions. From where does this thought arise? Who's the thinker? And when you get thoughts to do something, you don't have to act on every thought. You want to know the source. Because to explore into the dream, you need this duality mind because it's the dream creation. So So in the dream, we are using the mind as the source of how we speak, how we, all of these things is the doing of the mind. So this is why we use the mind. We just want to um, still the mind from its chattery of any question about the self. Things of the world is of the mind. Of the self, you have to go to the self intelligence. And this is the reason why you practice stillness. So, yeah. So you're using this mind less and less, more centering into the self and questioning the mind, always questioning from where does this thought arise.
Auset.
Mm-hmm.
So, audience, myself, we came into this dream with self-intelligence activated. Okay, we
Yeah.
came in with the self-intelligence because this is where some confusion can happen. This is then imagine yourself, you're walking down the street and you just trip and fall down. At some point within this dream, this realm that does have cycles and duality, we forgot ourselves. We didn't lose our self-intelligence. We forgot our self-intelligence and we were consumed, encapsulated by the mind intelligence. Okay.
Okay.
And then that's what caused this. Mhm.
Yeah, I wanted to say something real quickly to what you said just before I forget. So, just like Rashanti says, we came into the dream as a self intelligence. What happened? The mind, the ego, obscured the self. It because it wanted the light and it wanted to be the one that explored the dream, because the ego rise inside of while the self was sleeping, and it says, no, I am the powerful one, I am strength, I am this, I am this. This is what the ego says. And it right away it obscured the self and would not let the self rise, because they're supposed to explore the world, the self here, the ego here, and the void between. But it didn't happen like that. The self went to sleep, did not wake back up. The mind obscured it, cocoon magnetic energy around it. So yourself is cocoon with magnetic energy. You cannot rise up like this. You have to do this affirmation, the vibration, to break up that magnetic energy that's cocoon you from the mind. This is why we don't know ourselves. I know myself because I question into myself, question into this mind, you know and this is how I release all of those magnetic energy, because I stood up to this mind and I said, I am not afraid. I stand and face all these fears. So you have to do the same thing. This is this is what happened why you don't know yourself. The mind obscure you and says, I am bigger, I am stronger, I am more powerful than you. This is what the mind says, right? This is
And
why,
you believed it. And that's
yes,
what
exactly.
you started to believe it.
Exactly. And it started tell entrance you with stories. So it entranced the self in stories, you're locked in the stories, and you can't get up. You know you got confused in the stories, you don't know that you were sleeping. You forgot that you were sleeping and start thinking the stories are real, and you just got into the character that the mind created.
I feel this is important today because the mind has started this this chapter, this new saga of like spirituality. It's like the new religion, and now people are they're creating new egos. Like the ego isn't, oh, I'm just a Christian, or I'm a Muslim, or I'm a human. Now the ego is saying I'm a superhuman. And it's always going to make you, it's like it's a scheme, it's a pyramid scheme of
Yeah.
making you think that you're always something else within the dream. It's like once this role has lost its appeal, you're going to be presented with something else to be, and because you're believing the story, it's going to make sense to you because you're comprehending with the mind intelligence.
Yeah.
So it's just like it wants you to believe it your ego to believe, because your ego is the mind intelligence. Your ego is the mind intelligence, so it's only communicating to your ego. The mind intelligence can only communicate to your ego. So
Exactly.
to stop being tricked, to help you stop being tricked by the mind, you have to stop. You have to seek the self intelligence and allow it to rise in this dream.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to be speaking and comprehending the same language as the mind intelligence. Okay, it's like being born with a family that's not really yours. Okay, you can, and you only know their language. Your true family is calling out to you and they're speaking a language, but you don't know it because you've only been taught to believe that this language is the real language. The mind intelligence is the real intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
That's only true to your ego. And you have to let that ego go and allow the self intelligence to rise by breaking the obscuration of the mind with the affirmations. You have to speak the truth when the lie is being told.
Yes.
That's the battle.
Affirm it within the self. This is how you chisel away at all of those eons of lies and propaganda the mind have been spreading and telling, and all its ego self who are campaigning. So, and yeah, and if you notice, they are the ones with so many followers. Everyone is telling everyone else about it. Oh, you hear about this mind thing, and everyone is jumping on the bandwagon because they're all in the ego. So they're always gonna follow the ego's journey. And everybody wants this mind intelligence, because you see now there's they're saying about the AIs, how the AIs they're creating these AIs that is going to be so much 100 times more intelligent than human beings. And again, I say, look at this. They're still looking into this mind and this dream for intelligence because they have no awareness of self, that their self-intelligence go beyond this mind and anything that this mind can create into this dream.
The only reason that they can trick people into an emotional response when you tell them that AI is going to be more intelligent than humans is
Mm-hmm.
because they believe that the human is in an ego as well.
Yeah.
The ego is just like it's mind. I mean, the human is a mind intelligence ego.
Yeah.
Like that concept of humanity is a ego that's created by the mind intelligence.
Yeah. It is an ego being.
Hmm.
You know, only when you have the your soul connection and the teacher rise up to pull the ego off of the eye. Only that's only when you come into the real. Otherwise, the whole time you are ego. You're an ego false self duality. You know. So I want to share this. Remember when there was a time when many ones in many parts of the world were enslaved. Some ones with intelligent self say this is not right, we must do something about it. They starting small, they rally around, and eventually slavery as a law was outlawed throughout all the world. Remember, all over the world, it was a law for people to be enslaved, right? Now, if you're enslaved, it's some secret thing. It's not a law. It's some secret thing that people do. It is still going on, but it's not a law in the world, right? So remember when there was a law in many cultures to marry off your children 9 years old to some old man who have how many wives or whatever. So many things. There was a law that all of these ego wrote. All of these ego, their laws, was never anything for balance. Look at all of the laws them have. Someone said in self-intelligence said this is not right. We must do something about it. They speak about it, they gather about it, and eventually those things were changed. Yes, they still goes on in small parts of the world still, but it's not a law prominent everywhere where this is happening in all these cultures, right? Now, we are saying that there is a spiritual law. I want you to understand this. Spirituality is duality. Yeah? Understand this. Because everybody say, oh, spirituality, ancestral worship, African spirituality, especially, all of the other ones, them who worship the devil and Satan and all of these things. Whatever it is that you worship. I'm saying that it is all duality. It is all the mind in all of these shades, all the ego. You are worshiping the mind, worshiping the ego, and you don't know yourself, right? And I am saying right now, because I am the self-intelligence, which is saying, you are in slavery. Your real self is in slavery. This is why you don't know. Your real self is crying out to be liberated from slavery from the mind. I am the voice that speaks and advocates for the self because you don't know because you're not in your real self. I am saying this. I am calling out as the voice from the self, sharing this truth and this knowing, seeing things as they are. Here I have myself, Rashanti, with me, affirming, confirming the same thing. We together, we are saying that the I self is in bondage inside of this dream by the mind, the supreme ego. I am the self. I have a mind. I went to sleep. I start using my imagination. The ego arises inside of my dream as a result of me falling asleep. No, my mind has taken over me and gone crazy and doing a lot of crazy, stupid things. I want to rise up from this dream and wake up because all of myself is enslaved and being ruled tyrannically in the dream by all of the dream characters that this mind has created. The dream characters that is tormenting myself inside of this dream. I want to be liberated and free. I am telling you this. Just like all the other slaveries, this is the realest slavery that you don't know is happening. The soul is in bondage and slavery, wants to be liberated and free. Now, will you follow your self-intelligence and know what the story, know the real of what yourself is saying, or will you continue to follow the stories that the ego has created? The propaganda that the ego has spread for eons, the ego has been doing this. No, this is the opportunity for you to know yourself and to know truth. This is the end. This is going to be the end of this duality existence. You're never going to rise up as this again. Don't you want to take the opportunity to know? Together all your fragmented pieces of puzzles and put your self puzzle together so you can be in awareness of all yourselves, yourself in a body, yourself in a masculine form, yourself in so many forms, to be in such awareness of this. So this is what I would like to say. What else would you like to say, Rashanti?
Well, my laptop, the battery's gonna die soon, and I'm not able to log in on my cell phones for some reason.
Okay, so we can finish up. You can say the last thing that you want to say right now.
Okay. Um, I just want to encourage you guys to, and myself, all selves, to take this seriously. Like, this world, the mind has made you believe that Your attention needs to go into like systems that have been created in the dream, such as my family. I owe them my attention. I owe my attention to this body. I owe my attention to these feelings. I owe my attention to these thoughts. I owe my attention to my coworkers. I owe my attention to the earth. I owe my attention to all these things. They've taken you over. They've taken the soul over. Where has there been time developed? And let's just speak about today's society. Where on the news are they telling you to give attention to your soul? Where on the news have they told you that this is just a dream and that that it's only a result of the mind intelligence and that there's a self intelligence that's waiting for you, that knows that you belong somewhere else. Okay, so nobody's gonna do it for you. You have to do it. Nobody, there's not going to be a savior. You see how that just makes you complacent and just lets you stay in the dream another lifetime and another lifetime and another lifetime. This is why Christianity isn't new anymore. It took 2,000 years to get to this point, but now that we're at this point, they give you a new religion, and it's called spirituality. It's called, let's go to the fifth dimension. You see, they use it for a little bit and then they update it and give you something new to keep you complacent in the dream.
Yes,
If
sir.
nobody's telling
I
you
learned
that you have to dissolve this dream at the end of their little play or the end of their whatever it is they're telling you you need to do, if they don't tell you to dissolve it at the end, that is not balance. Create, demolish. That's going to be the true balance. Whatever I have created, I demolish. If nobody's talking about that, they're keeping you imbalanced in this dream. So take responsibility, carry out your duties to seek yourself and let it arise in this dream. Because once you do, you'll realize that it's not just about your ego self. Thank you.
Well said, Rashanti. Well said.
Much honor.
Much honor. Thank, thanks, thanks to all the I and I for joining us today. Hold on. Thank, thank you for joining us today. We will be doing another talk on Sunday at 8 p.m. Central Time. So please join us. This is the channel that we will be doing all of these talks and question and discussion on. The other channel is just for stillness and self-realization, affirmations and stuff like that, and meditation. This one we'll be doing more talks, and any question you have, we're here. So reach out to us. We've been there, we have done that, and now we're here to tell you that be confident in yourself, don't have no fear, because I am that I am all. So just step into your greatness and just take command of, and let this mind know that I am in command. I am in command of the commandment command. And as I have commanded, so let it be. So it is. Mind, be still and know that I am in command. So thank you, thank you. And we will see you at the next talk.